Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. There is more confusion concerning the nomination of the former governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, to be one of the Ruto cabinet secretaries after a handshake with Raila Amolo Odinga. A year ago, the police from the office of the EACC, that is Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, apprehended Wycliffe Oparanya on allegations of corruption, abuse of office, and conflict of interest. And after perusing his file, they forwarded that file to the body that is mandated to prosecute suspects, and that was the Office of the DPP, Director of Public Prosecution. And the major charge was that while Wycliffe Oparanya was a governor in Kakamega County, he received some kickbacks from a company called Sabema International Limited and Cecela Resources Limited. This money was paid directly to a law firm owned by Marende and Nyaundi Company advocates, and these advocates are Wycliffe Oparanya's advocates. And this money, according to the EACC, were kickbacks, and apparently Oparanya used them to buy some house. And the EACC, after forwarding this file, the Director of the Public Prosecution, headed by Renson Igonga, who is also coming from Western, had indicated that they wanted to prosecute Wycliffe Oparanya. During that moment, the opposition claimed that William Ruto had gone back to the factory settings and was trying to do what Uhuru Kenyatta was doing, trying to intimidate with court cases those who are not reading from the same page like him politically, having accused Uhuru Kenyatta of doing the same. On realizing that William Ruto had nominated Wycliffe Oparanya, the EACC wrote a letter to the clerk of the National Assembly rejecting the nomination of Wycliffe Oparanya, maintaining that Oparanya had committed a felony under Article 42, and they were saying that Oparanya received kickbacks, committed felony that was tantamount to conflict of interest, and received some ill-gotten money. But on 8th of July, today we are on 1st of August, the ODPP very fast changed its mind and wrote another letter to the EACC telling the EACC that they are withdrawing the charges against Wycliffe Oparanya. And they said that the monies that were being alleged to have been proceeds of corruption and kickbacks were actually monies that Oparanya had received as loan. And therefore they said it would even be very difficult to win that case because you cannot connect directly. You cannot connect Wycliffe Oparanya to any kind of corruption case. And this is one of the funniest seekers that we are used to in this Ruto government. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by telling you this. By a stroke of a pen, William Ruto tarnished the name of ODM. Because while ODM had been at the forefront speaking about corruption, it is like William Ruto has brought the discussion about corruption into their doorstep. Because from the onset, the nomination of Wycliffe Oparanya is now shrouded in corruption with divided opinions. Two institutions have a conflict about his case, with the EACC saying we must proceed with the prosecution of Oparanya. The office that is charged with the mandate to prosecute is saying no. And this is why I'm saying that moving forward, we might lose any discussion about corruption. And ODM might not have any authority again of talking about corruption. And I'm not saying that Wycliffe Oparanya is corrupt, but the discussion around corruption has now left Ruto's insiders. It is now taken to Raila's insiders because Wycliffe Oparanya is the deputy party leader. And when you touch on Wycliffe, that is the heartbeat, part of the heartbeat of ODM. But can someone just explain to me how a few months or weeks before Oparanya was nominated to the position of a CS and is about to be vetted, the DPP wanted to prosecute him. But now there is a change of heart. It might be very difficult to convince Kenyans that Oparanya is clean, especially under the timing, because the timing is they are withdrawing this case because they want Oparanya to be clean during the prosecution. But then one would ask this question. The EACC is now acting tough and they are on Oparanya's neck. Has it been that ever since they began their job? Do we have any big fish? I remember during Kibaki era, Ringera, Aaron Ringera, who was, I think, the first chairman of the EACC, said that his net was going to catch both the big and the small fish. Do we have any big fish that has been netted by the EACC? That's the question I want to ask, because I agree that Oparanya could be corrupt, but selective justice is something that we must really condemn. It is either Oparanya is corrupt or not. And if he's corrupt, then he must follow the full force of the law. However, the EACC must demonstrate that they have been doing the same, because we have big names that have been called upon, those who have been accused, so that before they are accused of targeting one man, they must prove beyond reasonable doubt that they have caught other people in the caliber of Oparanya. Benson Nigonga comes from Western, and many people, he falls into the trap of being accused of now protecting their son. That is it, because you cannot convince someone. William Ruto, many have said, never campaigned on a platform of corruption, of finishing corruption. Him was supposed to build an economy. Whether corrupt or not, he had campaigned about an economic plan from bottom to up. And I remember many of Ruto CSS, the first CSS, had corruption charges, including the deputy president. All of them were dropped, and sometimes the court was saying there was lack of evidence. Sometimes there was shoddy investigation, and even to make it worse, I remember the courts complaining that the office of the DPP, that is supposed to help Kenyans recover maybe stolen money, is the very, very institution that is sabotaging cases of corruption. And if you ask people like the DPP, they were saying that their cases were pegged or were driven by malice because Uhuru Kenyatta never wanted them for their allegiance to William Samoei Ruto. All of them, the cases were dropped. And in this regime, we have seen William Ruto retrieving people from jail, people who have been jailed because of corruption, and because they are politically correct, they have been pardoned. Judge Nyotu, while dismissing the case and releasing all the suspects in Kimarer and Aror Dam, complained and said that the only reason she was releasing the suspects and vindicating them was because there was lack of evidence. Not lack of evidence, but shoddy investigation. And she said that the DPP was deliberately working to sabotage all these cases. And the man at the center of this Kimarer, Henry Rotich, was given a docket as an advisor on your finance, and the money that you give to states. He's the one who is advising Ruto on how to use it, yet he was prosecuted of stealing billions of shillings. And so one will not, believe William Samoei Ruto. And we are treading on dangerous grounds that when someone is not reading or is not in good books with the powers that be, then the police, the EACC, the ODPP, the DCI are used against you. But once you swear allegiance, then your cases, you suddenly become as white as snow. And that is not the kind of Kenya that I want to be in. Because what that means is that we are going to celebrate corruption. And I'm not saying that Wycliffe Oparanya is corrupt. I'm only giving history how this government has been dealing with suspects. Even if you are suspected to have stolen a lot of money, once you switch camp and you're now singing Ruto Tosha, then you become clean. And this is why I'm saying that we run a risk of celebrating corruption. We also run a risk of turning this country into a one-party state, because these people will be intimidated. So that if you don't sing Ruto Tosha, then there are charges that are leveled against you. And ODM going into handshake with William Ruto is going to sanitize William Samoei Ruto. And they're going to carry the burden and all the rot that has happened in this government. Because I was asking in my earlier video, ODM still remains that they don't have a working formula with the UDA. And they're saying that they still preserve the role of advocating for justice, the role of championing for expansion of democratic space. But how will they criticize, for example, if Mbadi or Joho or Wycliffe Oparanya goes through after the vetting, and then there is any mess in those dockets? Will they criticize? Because look at what William Ruto did. People have been complaining about even the monies that are supposed to go to the county level. Sometimes back, the former Minister of Education said that he had written many letters to Treasury for capitation fee to be released to schools. That money was never there. So that docket has been given to John Mbadi. So that should there be any mess when there is capitation fee where we're not reaching schools in time, when devolution money is not reaching counties, then the person who will bear that burden is John Mbadi, and ODM will not speak about it. There was a lot of mess and rot that was created by Davis Chirchir in the energy sector. And Raila himself told us that the G2G oil deal was messed up and people made a lot of kill out of the business deal. Now that docket has been given to Opio and I, a very close ally of Raila Odinga, and that means that no one will ever talk about corruption in that docket anymore. Maybe people like Okeo Mutata will, but not ODM. And so ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we need to have a country that will uphold justice. If you are corrupt, regardless of your status in the society, you must be prosecuted. And the police and the EACC, these institutions, must not be used to intimidate opponents of the government. Democracy demands that you can belong to any party without being intimidated by anyone. And so the EACC and the ODPP have clashed. But you see, it is Renson Igonga's office that has the power to prosecute. The EACC will only investigate and forward the files to the ODPP, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Once they have declined, that will be the end of it. Now the ball is back to Parliament's court. Our Parliament is used to rubber stamping what the president wants. Now that the president and Raila Odinga are together, I know they are also going to rubber stamp. How I wish that they ask tangible questions and they find out. They go to the full length before they give the clean bill of health to most of these nominees. However, I still maintain that we cannot target one man when we have all other corrupt people working out there. if the net has to sweep, then it has to sweep all the people, not targeting individuals. And this conflict is one that exposes Ruto's government. If two institutions are going to clash, then there's no hope for this country. Corruption will still be perpetuated.